I like to look at myself as my own laboratory, kind of. And it's really fun. Human life is just so fascinating and so hilarious at times. But if I refer to the journey, I like to say that the experience that always seems to be missing is the only experience that is ever present. The experience that is always seems to be missing is the only experience that is ever present. We try to go towards experience. We try to remove or dissolve or add or do something in order to become or find. And this thing that we are in search for, or when always seem to be missing for us, is literally the only thing that is ever present. It's always here.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today I'll be speaking with Gilad Karni. Gilad Karni's work is in dissolving the mind's false sense of separation and limitation, and facilitating the truest expression of self from each person he works with, bringing unity of self, business, leadership, and society in alignment with the oneness of our nature. Tell me, how did you end up doing what you do?
It's one of the things that it's a lifelong journey of integrating so many things that we learn along the way.
Yes.
I've been a professional basketball player before what I do today. I grew up in Israel and I served in the military as well as part of growing up in Israel and the requirement for it. Me specifically, I served in the special forces. Playing basketball since I'm 6 or something like that. So I spent my entire life in high-performing environments where competition and defeating the other person is the requirement to success.
Yes.
And as I was growing and maturing in those environments, I recognized that there are many aspects of the human environment and the inner experience of being a human being aren't addressed at all.
Yes.
From understanding who we are and not even simple mind practices to be more present and more connected, to handle our emotions and our triggers, and this entire conditioning that we bring from our culture, our environments, our families, our childhood. So grew up a very inquisitive approach into discovering many other ways to approach the human beings in any environment. So from nutrition to yoga and meditation to spiritual understandings like non-duality and consciousness and the nature of self, to the sadhana method book that's behind you, and then literally almost any approach that I could find to better understand this human system that seems complex, but I actually think quite simple at this point.
Yes.
And it's really fun at this point of my life to guide people that are in these high-performing environments often, but to bring a very holistic or alternative approach to how we achieve our goals or how we find freedom and joy and how we create connection in business or leadership environments and how we elevate potential in an equation that's not equal hard work and exhaustion.
Yes, that's important.
Rather freedom and joy and connection. That's some of it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Was there any particular defining experience, or did this just evolve gradually as you transitioned from being a basketball player and in the army?
I would say both. I recognize many moments of recognition of the nature of ourselves, or the ever-present nature of any living being.
Yes.
That within it we can call unconditional freedom and joy. So I see many moments of recognitions or glimpses of really seeing beyond the mind-body conditioning, and also some kind of a gradual process into developing the understanding. What's funny about it, and you probably heard it from many other people
Yes.
in the space, that once you feel grounded in the recognition, it felt like there was never a process to get there. It was
Yes.
always here. It was always recognized, and then there was some kind of script or illusory experience that veiled what was always here.
Yes, what always is. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. So, and tell me how do you bring this to people? What does your work entail?
Most of my work is with leaders or business owners that we meet regularly for dialogues, conversations. At times it looks a little bit more like a coaching session. At times it would look like more cultivation of practices from mindfulness to self-inquiry. Um, at times the emphasis would be more them as leaders. At times it would be growing their businesses. But the ground of the work, or where we start at the beginning of the understanding and paradigm, maybe we would call it, that we want to create the leadership environment of their businesses, is the true nature of self. It is them really recognizing, really establishing their own experience based on their own recognition of the nature of self.
Mm-hmm.
The way I like to verbalize, even though we can't really name the nature of self because it's completely formless or unconditional. But when I go to my experience to recognize it, it seems like it's an ever-present experience. It's ever-present beingness.
Yes.
And out of that, some kind of recognition or expression of that through a human being that is completely unconditionally free and very joyful, not in an emotional experience, in just in the sense of how we experience ourselves in the world.
Yes.
So out of this place where I'm joy and freedom are my nature, peace is my nature, and I am ever present, there is nowhere for me to go outside of the present, and all of this experience that we think that we are not present is also a little bit of a veiling experience. Out of that, we would ask, what if the nature of myself is freedom and happiness and joy? Why wouldn't it be the nature of my leadership? Why wouldn't it be the nature of my business? So we go step by step, aligning how they show up as leaders and how they create businesses from that place, not from a place that feels conditional or go towards freedom or try to achieve something that hasn't been experienced.
Yes.
And it provides really beautiful journeys for people that are very unique for each one. It's very unique for every individual.
Yeah. Can you share a story of how either a leader or a business has transformed by taking on this perspective?
Yeah. Many of them. Let me see which one is coming to me right now. What I love to hear, where I also differ a little bit from trying to teach, than guiding in the inquiry of people about themselves.
Yes.
So I love in those moments when that comes often with whoever people I work with, whatever space they're in, is their own recognition that they say, I am happiness or I am freedom, from a place of really seeing it in themselves.
Yes. Yes.
Specific stories, few that come to me right now. One that recently, I usually don't work with employees. Most of my clients are business owners, but this is just such a fabulous story because it's such a representation of how the world show up to us when we come from this place.
Yes.
So someone that I've been working with for a few months and is an employee in a place, and it took a few months off actually from his work to go and do inner work and then do the deeper work that I do.
Yes.
Going back to his environment, that was a few months back. So he paid for himself. Usually employees get some kind of funds or something to do coaching, but he just wanted his own well-being and freedom. Within about a week of him returning to the same space and same work environment that he was in, his leaders, the leadership team that he's in, really noticed the changes that he had. And the company said that they want to reimburse him for the investment that he's made in himself to get the improvement that he's gotten. He never asked for it. He never wanted it back. He never thought that he would get it. But just him coming to a place where he's garnering his joy, when he's fully expressed, when he's not giving his power away, other people looked at him and say, "We want to give you back because what you've done is amazing."
Yes.
That's one of them.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. That is a great one. This is why it's for me, it's almost the perfect representation of how the world reacts to us when we show up from a completely different space of who we think we are.
Yes.
The majority of what I hear, without necessarily individual stories, is the removal of effort. We apply so much unnecessary effort in the work environments, many places in our life. So the removal of effort, and out of that, much more creative expression and self-expression and power and guidance that feels very intuitive, not only rational, and much more energy in how they conduct their life. Again, the work environment, because my work is a little more in the professional space focused, so a lot of the benefits they share around there of the changes. It's such a vast range from someone really finding their freedom to making more money.
Right.
But it's very individual to each one, and each one wants to focus on something else.
Yes.
What's interesting, usually what they come with is not what they realize they actually were looking for.
Yes.
And the deeper work really help understand that, oh, actually, this is what I was actually looking for. I just didn't know. I put it in other terms or other goals that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, that's often the case. When people come to someone who's going to help them recognize more about that which truly is, there's a certain expectation that people bring, and then what shows up is often very different than what's expected.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, in a good way.
Yeah. So I think that I think about it a little bit more for a second. Joy is maybe even the number one thing that I hear back. 3 of my past clients right now, write books about joy that they didn't imagine writing before. They'd never thought to write a book even before. But just out of the process of recognizing joy as the nature of self, they're writing books right now about joy and their experience of it, and sharing that with the world. So
that's great. That's great. And so, are there things that you can share that you do with people that help them with this? Because again, when we do these, as I know you've listened to some of these podcasts, when people can have something tangible to share that people can then explore on their own, I feel it provides extra value. So do you have a few things you could share from the work that you do?
Yeah. Let's focus maybe on some questions. There are many exercises for me, where I like to apply the work and where I let my creative expression come out is not doing the same practices with each one.
Yes,
Actually, often I really tailor it to the person in front of me, kind of like more like a healer or herbalist, where you go to and they look at you and they analyze you and they craft something very unique to you.
Yes,
This is where my joy or creative expression is. There are a few questions that I really love helping people answer. One of them is, what is my creative expression of love? What is my creative expression of love? For me, people that I guide, or how I want to see the work business environment in general, is to be a creative expression of love. I don't want it to be a hard work or something that we get stressed about, or something that we think, how can I only gain from it, or that I can bring my full self into that. So people in a professional space, I want to help them answer, what is my creative expression of love? And out of that, create their business or what they offer and the way they work from that answer.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Second, that is for me more related to the leadership aspect, is, where do my joy and freedom know no limitations? At sports, perhaps sometimes we would call it being in the zone. Creativity will call it flow. I want to guide people to
say that question again.
Where do my joy and freedom know no limitations?
Okay, good.
That space is where we are, again, are in the zone or in flow, that there is no boundary or no limit placed by the mind on the present experience.
Yes.
And from that place, we always operate at our best. And we are always connected. We are always showing up powerfully. So as a leader, rather than getting into technicalities of assessments and feedback loops and stuff like that, which are important, but usually people that would come to me would be after doing a lot of these personality assessments.
Yes.
Is guide them more and more to that space where they place no boundary on their experience, and then it's just being fully in the moment and fully expressed and fully at your top performance.
But isn't that what's natural? Isn't it natural to this boundlessness that all is? Isn't it natural in each and every one of us? Isn't what you're doing helping people uncover what it's already natural within them?
Yes. It's we can call it. We can say that I facilitate the truest expression of who they are or what they want. Of course, I don't. This is why I also don't think that I really teach much or do much. It's just literally, you create the conditions or the space or the dialogue that really help people step into who they know they are to some degree. As I shared about myself, when you get to that place, you recognize it's always been there. I always knew it, but I haven't lived it for some reason, or it seemed like I wasn't.
Yes. So, do you find that when people start to explore these type of things, that the transformation in their experience can be quite profound, but it also is very spontaneous. It's not premeditated in any way. It just starts to happen by itself.
Yes, I think this is where it's it's a unique and kind of a wild journey. I probably and been on some of it. It's really unexpected. It takes many different shapes and forms. If I look at it from my perspective on the process, I don't think it's much a process of growth or becoming into something. If we recognize that our nature is being or is ever present, it's not much of a process of becoming greater than we are or more than we currently. It's a dissolution or dissolving what seems to get in the way, or some kind of false perception about who we are or what reality is.
Yes.
And the more we dissolve that, the more there are glimpses of recognition or embracing of the true nature of self. So I agree with you. Yeah, it's at times very unpredictable how, when, or why it will happen, why it makes it so, for me, so fun as a professional to be in that space.
Yes, absolutely. Again, part of the joy of doing this since the 70s is that when people start to open to that which is true or that which is real beyond the person or beyond the sense of limitation, it's really a letting go as opposed to an adding on. I think that's where we get caught. We think it's about more and more and more and more, but it's actually about less of all the things that we think we know or think we understand or think are true about us. As we challenge that, it dissolves by itself, and what's left is just the essential nature of all that is.
Yeah, beautiful. One of the sentences that I like to say about it, which I like to laugh at this whole thing sometimes,
Yes.
because we are such a, I like to look at myself as my own laboratory kind of, and
Yes,
it's really
yes.
fun. Human life is just so fascinating and so hilarious at times. But if I refer to the journey, I like to say that the experience that always seems to be missing is the only experience that is ever present. The experience that is always seems to be missing is the only experience that is ever present. We try to go towards experience, we try to remove or dissolve or add or do something in order to become or find. And this thing that we are in search for, or when we always seem to be missing for us, is literally the only thing that is ever present. It's
Yes,
always
yes.
here.
Yes.
So
Yes. There's nowhere you need to go and nothing that needs to be done for this to be as it already is. Yes.
right.
Yeah.
How do you find the journey for people that you guided over the years or shared the message with?
Well, as you said, it can be very different. There are certain things that are universal. One is there's a greater sense of calmness and openness and spontaneous peace and joy. And then there's a falling away of all the old beliefs about who we were or how we're supposed to be and how is the world supposed to be. All that naturally starts to fall away. And it reveals that this, whatever's already happening, is already what we've been seeking. And it's not special or unique to any individual. The individual actually is an appearance. And this, that is, as you put it, ever present, is just naturally what already is. It's just been ignored or not recognized or minimized. Again, it's hard for people to acknowledge this that already is, because we're habituated into trying to find something else, something better, something more, the latest this, the latest that, and all that is enriched as the sense of the enjoy. The less there's an enjoyer, the more there's enjoyment. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, who is it? Nisargadatta Maharaj, I think, that said, one is always in bliss, but never blissful.
Yes, he did say that. That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it sounds like exactly what you said, and yeah, I agree. The moment we hold on to the experience, it's we are limiting it. So the moment we want the bliss, or we try to cling into the bliss that is here, or the joy, or the freedom, that's it. We created some limit around it, or some desire for it to be longer than it's naturally lasting.
Yes. And but also, isn't it too that the less we're wanting to change this, whatever the appearance is showing up, the more there is just a recognition that this is already what has been sought.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yes.
How do you, I know that especially in the non-duality space, there's one side that they will say, or teachers or people who share the message, that there is no recognition, because the recognition is also illusory. Who would be recognizing it?
Yes, yes.
And there are people on that side that says there is recognition and awareness is the recognition. I understand both of them, and I understand the perspectives that both of them come to. How do you approach each
You
of
know,
them?
it's similar. What happens is the Sedona method has been around for a really long time, and it started out as a tool to help people on every level, including to discover the truth of who they are. So we've always integrated self help with no self, and so because of that, if someone comes with an apparent personal problem, we work with them on tools to help them dissolve whatever it is that's creating that sense of a personal problem. But at the same time, we're always exposing people to the possibility that there are no problems, there's just this. And that exposing or speaking from that perspective, the techniques drop away and there is just this. And there's everything in between. There's lots of techniques in between to help people see that they're not their body mind, they're more than that, or they're not their thoughts or feelings, they're more than that, or the whatever the problem appears to be is in this moment is just a memory. So there's a lot that can be supported in between those two perspectives. We're just simply improving the apparent person to recognizing that there isn't an actual separate person. There is just being. As you mentioned already, there's just this one unified energy that of being that all is as it is.
Why I think that actually as a professional, even you asked me earlier, I find it limiting to name tools or to say this is a tool, right? As you say, all tools dissolve, or all maybe skillful means even dissolve, because if the experience we are trying to recognize is a being experience, the so-called other person or professional in this case, sitting on the other side that can facilitate an experience like that must be in the experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So, yeah.
Yes, or be beyond experience. Either one.
Yeah. So that is beyond experience for me. Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
I don't know. With the terminologies, depends where you're coming from. But right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
100%. So where those moments, those really magical moments happen is in a place where the professional is so deep in that place, and that is not even entering that place in as a professional manner, that it just happens so naturally.
Yes,
without the more I would love to take credit, but the more I get into it, the more I see how I actually don't do anything for this to happen.
Yes, well, neither one of us ever have done anything.
Right.
But yes, the magic happens when there is no me and no you. There's no client or no student or no participant in it, if it's in a seminar. That when both of those illusions disappear, and it happens spontaneously and often at the same time, there is just this, which was already or is already, and that is still that is completely beyond the person, yet it has a very profoundly transformative apparent effect on that particular body, mind, or life stream.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, I experienced the greatest benefit of it coming from environments that are so hard on the body and the mind, that you constantly abuse yourself in a way in how you treat it. You play when you're injured. You don't take you take care of it in, you work out and you try to be healthy, but the amount of pressure and tightness and accumulation of some negative energy that happens in the body in environments like elite sports, like military, like growing up even in an environment where I grew up, it's a lot of conflict.
Yes, yes.
In a way, experiencing the benefit of that through the body is incredible, because I see just the openness of that, and I see the healing that so naturally happens,
Yes.
and the opening of this organism, um, again, without really doing much. And obviously there's taking care of the body, but as this dissolves, there's a lot of dissolvement of pain and accumulation of toxins and negative energy in the body that happened. And
Yeah.
for me, it's a beautiful to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. And it's all spontaneous too. Yeah,
Yes.
neither one of us are doctors. We don't try to do the creating kind of physical effect, but the physical effect happens all by itself. The sense of being an individual locked in a body mind is a state of contraction. And no matter what, even if you had a beautiful upbringing and everything is supposedly coming up roses, which is a weird expression, but even so, what happens is that sense of contraction, as the sense of being a separate individual dissolves, they go together. The contraction brings a sense of individuality, and the individuality reinforces the sense of contraction. And as that dissolves, it's kind of beautiful what happens.
Mhm. How do you see that? I'll ask you a question. How do you see? So for me, my real passion actually is and my work where I see it contributing, and why I'm not too interested in diving into there's so much philosophical debate, right, about
Right.
understanding it, and non-duality, and who is it and why is it. Um, I see it maybe as or the first thing, that if all of us wants to go towards some kind of social unity on a global scale, right, and then ending fights and then wars and division and things like that in the world, for me, I see that kind of understanding as the only place to begin.
Yes.
Otherwise, we are not really scratching the surface or touching the real issue. How do you see that happening?
Well, generally, what's happening is that this is a funny analogy, and it's not mine. I don't know where I originally heard it, but generally, what most people are doing to try to change or improve their lives is they're rearranging the deck furniture on the Titanic as it sinks. And again, I didn't make that up. I heard that from someone. I can't remember. I
Yeah.
give them credit, but I don't remember where I first heard that. But the trying to change the way the world appears from the outside in my experience, tends to be temporary and causes contraindications. In other words, if you suppress a behavior or a feeling, it tends to express somewhere else. But if you naturally recognize that there is no separation between you and me, or there is no you and me, which is even more powerful, when that's naturally recognized, the sense of unconditional love is recognized for what already is, and that expresses in life as how people relate to each other. It's natural, it's spontaneous. You don't have to make that happen. You don't have to try to like people more or judge less.
Yeah.
Judging is just an indication that there is a sense of a personal center. As that dissolves, so do the judgments. So does the struggle. And as you said, the effortlessness is part of the nature of what already is. There is a sense
Mhm.
of effortlessness to it.
Yeah.
And as far as the world is concerned, this body mind donates to causes, especially things that help the planet. Uh, but I don't try to impose that on anyone. So when someone
Mhm.
comes to a seminar or any other live event or in our audio programs, we don't try to get people to believe one thing is right and another thing is wrong. Here, there is this sense that people come together naturally when the sense of a contracted individual self dissolves.
Mhm.
It's just a natural outflowing that doesn't require extra effort. And at the same time, I've seen people go from being completely selfish, self-centered, and it's all about me, to wanting to do more and actually doing more to recognize uh, our fellow humans and animals and plants in the world, and they the transformation can be quite profound.
Which I think is also where the greatest fear lays before you get there. You say often it comes with a great passion for service, right? And the well-being of everyone and everything,
Yes.
which I'm very much connected with. Before that, this is in a way the greatest fear, because often they call it the ego or the me, or the sense of separation, because it's putting so much effort into existing, into applying action, that it thinks that if that dissolves, it will just sit on the couch,
Right.
eat ice cream, no
Right.
bills, no money,
Yes.
nothing. And that often one of the greatest barriers actually for people to overcome. Um, just that, thinking that from now on there will be no movement. It will be just one
Yes.
big lazy human that never moves, because, well, I don't need to do anything. Well,
Yes.
how, do you find it as well, and then
Oh,
how do you
it's
approach it?
such a common thing, but people can be recognized not by an individual, but it can be recognized that they were never in charge to begin with. They
Mm.
action was already spontaneous. All the things that the sense of me takes credit for afterwards continue to happen
Yeah.
naturally and spontaneously without the sense of me. It was never really required.
That's great. That's a great expression of that. The me just taking credit afterwards to what is
Yes.
naturally happening. I love that. That's really
Yes,
good.
yes, because it's the sense of me thinks it's so important and so central to everything, and life would fall apart without it. But the only reason that life seems to be falling apart is based on the perspective that it's me against the world,
Mm.
and it's life or death, and I can make mistakes, and there's all these problems that I'm responsible for, or you're responsible for, or they're responsible for. But if life is just simply living itself, then everything that's happening is part of that one happening, and it continues to happen as it was, except what I notice is there just is more of a sense of openness and harmony and light and love and joy uh, for no one. It's just what's already there.
For no one and everyone. This is
Yes,
the beauty of that.
yes,
How do you see that helping us end? For me, I'm very passionate about ending war. I grew up in a place that's been fighting for its existence for forever.
yes,
And I think you said something about there is the mechanism of trying to suppress what expression or
right.
emotions, or anything, or a condition that wants to arise. When I look at our social systems, whatever space they would be, from education at times to prisons, military, almost any large scale system often operates from a place of suppressing um, behavior in order
Yes,
to fit into the system.
yes, definitely.
Um, What do you see any
Well, there's two things you brought
solution
up.
there?
Well, the when the culture in an organization or in a society starts to shift in the direction of supporting people in just their natural expression, however that's appearing, there's an ease in the organization because it's so much wasted energy to try to make people be different than the way they're showing up at the moment. I mean, and if you just allow, if the system itself is designed to allow people to just be, then from there still can be and still is tremendous action, but without all this strain to try to have it fit into all these preconceived boxes where when we have all these preconceived boxes about the way certain people should be or the way it should be, then we're at war with what is. At least it feels that way. And that's actually part of where war comes from. This isn't okay as it is. You need to change. You need to give me what I want, or you need to believe the way I do. And as that starts to drop away, it's difficult. It becomes more and more difficult to sustain conflict because there's nothing and no one, nothing to be conflicted about and no one to have a conflict. There's just what's happening. So it's a natural outflowing of the recognition of no self and the letting go of the imagined self or the imagined. If you feel uncomfortable with letting go of the imagined self, it's what most people are comfortable with is the imagined limitations that this imaginary self seems to be carrying around with them. Yes. Those most people are willing to work on, and you see tremendous benefits just at that level. Do you notice a similar thing?
Yeah, 100%. There is so much effort that the me or the sense of separation, and out of that, the systems that we created that come from this paradigm, put into suppressing whatever arises, right? Or yes. Rejecting it, or manipulating it, or
yes.
Doing so much, and it's draining. Why so many of us on that journey, and maybe I think probably without having data for it, I would say 100% of people on that journey got to a point of exhaustion at least once.
At least once, yes.
Right? Because it's always draining. It's always, if you always in a way use willpower or always try to manipulate what is present in your behalf, which maybe we can say possible to some degree. That depends where we take. At least it's in your own experience or the experience of the separation. It seems possible. There's so much effort going to that.
Yes.
And then what just without dissolving anything. What if we just redirect all the energy that we put into suppressing or putting down into expression?
Yes, or just openness. Sometimes it's sometimes there's expression, sometimes there's just living life fully as or life is being lived fully without there need to be a lot of any external activity. I'm not activity as in the body doing things, but activity like it's expressing truths or sharing deep insights. Again, that's an interesting thing is what we've discovered is that when people don't need to get involved in the story in order to have transformation in their lives, the story actually is all about what was or what might be. It has nothing to do with what is. And so the stories transform by themselves. When you work on the story, it tends to seem to get more real, more meaningful, more important, more special, and more sticky. Whereas if you move beyond the story, there is already just freedom. And then also what happens is there's this sense of allowing that comes and a recognition that even the story or even the sense of limitation or even the burnout or even the apparent conflicts those are part of that same wholeness. They're not separate from that. This, all of it, is just an expression of wholeness, of boundlessness, of beingness.
Beautiful. Well, why I think for me, I don't really relate with a lot of how we approach businesses or the whole marketing approach into business, because it's all about stories. It's all about, making some kind of a commentary that even try to make it more than it is,
Yes.
or changing your story, or even not really finding much connection with trying to put positive thinking and stuff like that. But one of my conflicts with how we conduct businesses is the try to use stories in order to change action,
Yes.
or to control action of the behavior of someone else that is coming across what we share.
Yeah, well, it's just a loop when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Your story feeds their story, who feeds your story, who feeds their story, and neither one of you are in control. Then, actually, you aren't in control now. But there's more of a sense of being. The more you try to manipulate the world, the more you feel manipulated, and the more you feel manipulated, the more you try to manipulate. And it's a self-reinforcing loop, and it's very unsatisfying, and it's counterproductive.
Yeah, it's a big waste of resource,
That's for sure.
We spend, and then we say we are not creative, and we are drained, and we are, we don't go with our dreams because we might not happen, or we don't have energy
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for most of us, where life is what's happening. Well, it's just what's happening, but it's what's happening while we are apparently waiting for something else, whatever that something else is. And we don't realize that what's already apparently happening, is life itself already. So is there anything else you want? We've gone on a while, and I want to give you a chance to kind of summarize what you do and your perspective, so that people are left with something to focus on. So what is, if you were going to summarize your work and what you're all about as an invitation to people, what would that be?
Thank you for the invitation. In moments like that, I catch myself now needing to use a story in order to.
But again, here's the thing. I don't think stories are right or wrong or good or bad.
Right.
It's just that stories, if we treat them as the whole truth and nothing but the truth, it can be a limitation. But stories are wonderful teaching tools, and it is a wonderful way to communicate in a relationship of any kind, including a business relationship. So don't censor yourself.
No, that's I'm not rejecting the stories, but I like anything that in any way I operate, and even in the way seems like you, or the nature of the conversations, I go to check what is right at the moment,
that's
rather
perfect.
than this is how it looks, and I must
absolutely.
repeat the same story, or hold the title X or title Y. When I check with myself right now, I can share about my work that my creative expression of love, or how being naturally expresses itself through me, there's just endless love or unconditional love towards sharing that space with people. I'll call it guiding or teaching. It's also saying, I'm the one doing it, but maybe for the simplicity of the understanding, is a guiding or coaching into the recognition of people of their true nature, or that is completely unconditional, that is ever present, that is joy and freedom at its very nature, without any effort of going anywhere with it, and out of that place to create the business as your creative expression of love, and leadership environments that are very effortless and come together in the recognition of our shared nature. And for me, I see it just as a social contribution, and I want to see how all of us, this entire world, really moves into that space, and removing all layers of division and conflict and separation, and all of the resources that we've been talking about here, going into systems of suppression or separation or borders or any me over you. I think it's just time for all of us to really invite a different reality. I think it's time for all of us to say, you know what, it's our responsibility. It's no longer the responsibility of leader X or leader Y to do that. It's all of us to call, you know what, we want to live this life experiencing who we are and experiencing the nature of being of everyone we ever come with. So at this point, I think it's our responsibility.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So thank you. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
My website, that would be karnigilad.com. So that's my last name, then my first name, .com. You can send me an email at connect@karnigilad.com. My website is the best place to follow on updates and what I'm up to, articles that I write, podcasts, and a lot of free resources for anyone to use.
Great. Well, we'll also put that in the show notes. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with you, and keep up the wonderful work. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for hosting me, and thank you for the wonderful work that you do and creating such an incredible platform and work and methods to share the same truth, and bring people to that space. It's a very sacred work.
Yes. Well, we're both very fortunate to be being used in this way. So thank you. And thank you everyone for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Gilad Karni. You can learn more about Gilad at karnigilad.com. That's KARNIGILAD.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona Method, please visit www.sedona.com. As you explore our site, you'll learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.